Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift back through the mists of time into a world where torches flickered against stone walls and the moon leaned close over towers and gardens that no longer stand. Tonight, we're entering a dreamlike journey where castles glow in candlelight, the night wind sighs through ancient oaks, and the sea keeps whispering against grey English cliffs. Lie back, breathe slowly, and let this story carry you, like a gentle stream leading you into sleep. History can feel heavy on the page, but not here. Tonight, we won't lecture, we'll wander. We'll drift as if sleepwalking through silent corridors, brushing our fingers against stone worn smooth by time, hearing the faintest whispers of voices long gone. Every hum of your fan, every rustle outside your window, folds into the story itself. And trust me, if you had lived in those days amid feasts and betrayals, whispers and crowns, you wouldn't have survived a moment. But you don't need to. All you need to do is listen and smile softly. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know more about you. Drop a comment below. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it where you are? Maybe you're in a glowing city where streetlights hum through the dark, or maybe in the countryside, with nothing but the moon and a few crickets singing. Wherever you are, somehow, we are sharing this same moment together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture this: the soft fog of the late 15th century, wrapping itself around a quiet castle. Inside a chamber glowing with the smell of wood and the crackle of fire, a child lets out his first cry. His name is Henry Tudor, a boy no one thought would be king, for the crown was already promised to his older brother, Arthur. Henry was only the second son, a small piece in a grander game. Yet fate, like a sudden shift of wind across a still lake, changed course silently. Arthur died young, leaving behind an empty throne and a Spanish widow, Catherine of Aragon. Henry, still only a golden youth, grew in strength and charm. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes the colour of autumn skies, and hair gleaming like fire in candlelight. But Henry wasn't only handsome, he was gifted. He sang sweetly, strummed the lute, wrote verses, rode horses across meadows with the ease of the wind. He wrestled, jousted, studied languages, music, theology. He was a prince of both mind and body, a true Renaissance dream. When his father, Henry VII, a quiet and cautious man, passed away, the crown slipped onto Henry's head. It was 1509, and Henry was just 17. Imagine a boy at the threshold of manhood, wrapped in velvet robes, stepping onto the throne with fire in his heart. Bells rang through morning fog, cheers rose through the streets, and the people believed they had been gifted a golden prince. And that was the beginning of both a reign and a rhyme that would echo for centuries. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. 6 women, 6 fates, 6 lives interwoven with the story of one man. Tonight, beneath the hush of night, we begin slowly, tenderly with the childhood and the first steps to the throne of Henry VIII, a boy never meant to rule, who would change England forever. Imagine a misty morning in England at the dawn of the 16th century. The sun is hesitant, still hiding behind thick clouds, leaving the land washed in a soft silver light. In the palace gardens, trees stir gently, each leaf trembling in the cool breeze, whispering as if the earth itself were sighing. Far away, church bells toll slowly, their echoes rolling through the fog like the heartbeat of an entire kingdom, steady and unhurried. In this quiet setting, a young king appears, Henry VIII. He is not yet the heavy, brooding figure history remembers. No. At this time, Henry is still just 17, a brilliant youth with reddish-gold hair glinting in candlelight, eyes as clear as a springtime lake. They say that when Henry walked into a room, it seemed to brighten, for he was tall, broad-shouldered, and alive with energy. And beside him was a woman of a different kind of beauty, calm, steadfast, carrying the quiet strength of someone who had already endured trials. She was Catherine of Aragon, widow of his older brother, Arthur. You may picture Catherine as a candle steady in the wind. Born in Spain, raised in the glittering courts of Ferdinand and Isabella, those monarchs who sponsored Columbus and reshaped Europe. She had been schooled in Latin, philosophy, and theology. More than anything, she carried within her a deep devotion to God. The breeze slips through the window now. Take a slow breath in and let it out, just as Catherine once sighed by the sea, leaving her homeland for England. When Henry and Catherine were married, the kingdom rejoiced. They seemed the golden pair. He brought laughter, music, and celebration. She brought serenity, dignity, and a sense of peace. At feasts that sparkled with candlelight and wine, Henry often sat proudly by Catherine, while she observed quietly, her soft brown eyes holding the noise and colour of the court with gentle composure. If you listen carefully, you might almost hear the echoes of that long-ago music. A lute strumming, distant drums, the murmur of voices, and woven between them the quiet rhythm of breath. Henry's heartbeat, eager and strong, Catherine's calm and steady. For a time, they seemed perfectly in tune. But as the sea keeps pushing against the same stone cliffs, year after year, time began to wear at their happiness. Catherine became pregnant many times, yet the infants did not survive. Only one child lived, a daughter, Mary. At first, her birth was a blessing. But gradually Henry's longing turned sharper, heavier. He yearned for a son, an heir to carry his crown forward. On silent nights, Henry was said to pace alone through the stone corridors, his hand brushing against the cold wall, his thoughts restless and unanswered. In another chamber, Catherine knelt in prayer, her shadow trembling against the wall in the flicker of candlelight, lips moving with whispered devotion. The wind slipped in through the high windows, a long, quiet sigh of fate. Close your eyes now. Feel your own heartbeat. Slow, steady. Imagine it as Catherine's beating with a mother's longing for a son to cradle. Imagine Henry's beating with a king's need for a male heir to secure his dynasty. Two heartbeats, two desires, never fully meeting. Their love story, once a gentle summer melody, grew heavier with duty. It was not that love disappeared, it was that the crown weighed more. Henry loved Catherine, but ambition and fear pressed against that love. Catherine loved Henry, but grief and the whispers of courtiers tested her strength. And so the waves kept breaking upon the shore. The wind kept slipping through the palace halls. The candles kept wavering in the chapel. A marriage that began like sunrise now bore the first shadows of dusk. But tonight, you don't need to worry about endings. All you need is the image. A mist-shrouded castle, a young king full of vigor, a gentle queen praying by candlelight. Let every sound around you wind, heartbeat, quiet breath wrap around you like a soft blanket. Take a deep breath in and let it go, as Catherine once did, believing that sorrow too would be carried away by the wind. And so the story drifts onward, softly, gently, leading us further into the tapestry of light and shadow that was the fate of the 6 women who shared the life of Henry VIII. Imagine a courtly night in the Tudor palace. Candlelight glimmers in silver sconces, scattering golden shadows across the high ceilings. The lute strums softly, mingling with the low beat of drums, like the slow, steady rhythm of a heartbeat. The air carries the fragrance of fresh garlands, woven with care, and the warm sweetness of spiced wine drifting between bursts of laughter. And there, among crimson robes and pearls, one figure stands out, Anne Boleyn. She is not the fairest of beauties, yet there is a strange magnetism about her, like a gentle breeze in the night, quiet but impossible to ignore. Her dark eyes hold both tenderness and sharp wit, drawing attention as if they carried secrets from beyond. Anne was not like the others at court. She had lived in France, absorbing the elegance of the Renaissance language, music, art, the subtleties of charm. When she moved, it seemed as though the perfumes of Paris gardens and the lilting songs of French halls trailed behind her. Take a slow breath, in and out, just as Henry did when he first met that gaze. Unlike her sister Mary, who had once been the king's fleeting mistress, Anne refused to play such a role. She would not be a shadow in Henry's memory. If he wanted her, it must be not for a moment, but for a crown, for legitimacy, for everything. This stirred Henry into confusion, then passion, then obsession. On nights when the wind whispered through stone windows, he wrote letters, filled with yearning, to Anne. It is said he pressed those letters to his chest, so his heartbeat could thrum against every word. But Catherine remained the lawful wife, dignified and enduring. The Church in Rome, with the Pope as its guardian, would not allow divorce. Marriage was sacred, unbreakable. And so, silence grew thicker in the palace, like fog rolling deep over the Thames. Can you hear it? The murmur of wind outside, like the whisper of fate. Can you feel it? The king's heartbeat racing for Anne, while in another chamber, Catherine kneels in prayer, her breath steady, unwavering, certain that God will guide her. Anne Boleyn, slender in frame, quick in wit, became a new breeze in England's court, a breeze that touched not only the king's heart, but also the very walls of the church, shaking the foundations of a kingdom. But tonight, we don't need to follow conflict. We only pause to see. Candlelight dancing in Anne's dark hair, music drifting through the hall, and night air sliding gently along the stone corridors. Together they weave a lullaby from long ago, carrying us slowly, tenderly, deeper into rest. Close your eyes now. Let your breath fall softer, like the measured steps of Anne as she entered the heart of history. Picture a solemn morning on the River Thames. Mist drifts thick and heavy across the water, moving slowly like pale smoke. From far away, church bells toll, their sound stretching into the damp air. Seagulls wheel above, their grey wings faint in the fog, their cries hoarse, like the weary sighs of an age. In this hushed sky, the kingdom itself seemed to breathe differently. The young king, Henry VIII, once the symbol of vigour, carried within him a quiet, weighty decision. Denied by the Pope in Rome the annulment of his marriage to Catherine, he chose another path, to part ways with the Catholic Church and declare a new order. Listen. The wind whispers through old trees, reminding us that history never stands still. Henry's heartbeat, in sleepless nights, slowed and heavy. Each breath he drew faded into darkness, like prayers unanswered. It may have seemed at first a private matter, a man seeking to change his marriage. Yet in truth, it was a turning that altered the kingdom itself. Like a pebble dropped into still water, ripples widened outward from palace halls, to churches, to villages with slate-grey roofs resting in the fog. Catherine, the rightful queen, was pushed aside, slipping quietly from the centre of light. She lived out her days in sorrow, yet never lost her dignity. It is said she prayed faithfully, held herself with composure, like a rose removed from its garden but still proud in bloom. Even with her final breath, she believed she was Henry's true wife, England's true queen. Pause a moment, close your eyes, and imagine Catherine by candlelight, her hand resting on the worn pages of scripture, the sound of paper turning, soft as butterfly wings, blending with the wind through the cracks of stone windows. Her shadow trembles on the wall, while her breath moves slowly, evenly, without complaint. Elsewhere, Anne Boleyn ascended as queen. Light poured across the steps, catching the dark shine of her hair, the spark in her eyes. Henry held her hand, certain she would give him the son he longed for. Music and drums rang again through the hall, yet beyond the walls lay a silence thick, deep, like the sea before a storm. Hear the waves on stone. Steady, patient. History moves in the same way, slowly, but unstoppable. And so, from personal love and longing, Henry created an unhealable break with Rome. A new faith was born, not from lofty debate, but from a heartbeat, a breath, a man's desire. The kingdom shifted colour, candles burned differently in chapels, hymns rose in a changed voice. But tonight, we need not feel the weight of upheaval. We only sit quietly, listening to the wind at the window, to the slow pulse of our own hearts, picturing Catherine in her candlelit prayer, Anne in her radiant hall, Henry pausing between two paths. All of it flows like an ancient melody, steady and gentle, guiding you deeper into rest. Imagine an autumn morning in the Tudor court. The sky above is pale grey, clouds drifting slowly, with thin bands of sunlight slipping through, laying silken light over roses fading at the end of their season. Along the stone corridors, footsteps echo faintly, as though time itself were whispering. Here once walked Anne Boleyn, with pride in her step. She believed that the king's love for her was strong enough to change a kingdom, and for a time it was. Henry broke from Rome, created a new church, all to marry her. But love, no matter how fierce, is like a candle in the wind, beautiful, flickering, and fragile. Anne gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth. No one could have imagined that this fragile child would one day become one of the most radiant monarchs in history. Yet at that moment, Henry longed not for a princess, but a prince, a son, a certain heir for the Tudor throne. And when pregnancies ended in sorrow, hope gave way to impatience. Breathe slowly. Hear the draught slipping through the windows, cool and restless. In the palace, every whisper of enemies was another invisible cut. Anne, with her strong mind and sharp tongue, had unsettled many. They spun accusations, adultery, betrayal, even conspiracies unthinkable. Today we know most of these were inventions. Yet to Henry, weary and restless, they became a door through which he could step away. It is said that in her final days, Anne was strangely calm. She walked through the cold halls, light streaming through narrow windows, falling across her dark hair and delicate face. She prayed, breathing in slowly, breathing out slowly, as though each breath lifted her soul closer to peace. On the morning of her execution, golden light filled the quiet yard. Anne did not curse, did not cry. She lifted her head, her eyes bright, her voice soft as wind. She blessed the king, and then bowed, serene as a petal falling upon water. And from that ending, a beginning grew. Elizabeth, the child her father had once dismissed, would become the radiant queen of England's golden age. Like the moon after rain, she would lead her kingdom into light. If you listen closely, you might hear Anne's whisper in the night wind, not bitterness, but a message for her daughter, a reminder that even when the body fades, spirit may endure as guiding light. Notice, your heartbeat slowing now, your breath steady. This story is not to frighten you, but to ease you. The tragedy of Anne Boleyn, tonight, is no more than a quiet melody, carrying you softly, deeper into sleep. Imagine the dawn of a new morning breaking over Tudor walls. Soft light streams through tall windows, painting warm patterns on the stone floor. In the garden, dew-kissed roses glimmer like tiny crystals. A gentle breeze rustles through leaves, carrying scents of amber and herbs from the tranquil courtyard. All is quiet, as though the world itself holds its breath. After the storm of Anne Boleyn's tragedy, the court lay silent, heavy with unspoken sorrow. Then, like a soft sunrise, emerged Jane Seymour. Gone were the ostentatious music and fiery gazes. In their place, a peace as still as a windless lake. Jane entered Henry VIII's life with a humble smile, steady eyes, and hands that lightly brushed his cloak, reminding him that love need not thunder to be warm. Breathe in and out. Feel the breeze slip through the window, the steady beat of your heart. Let the peace settle around you, melting the lingering chill. Jane was no power seeker, yet she quietly held the court's esteem. She once defended Catherine's dignity, then gently helped mend Elizabeth's wounds. In her private retreat, she tended an herb garden, cultivating mint, marigold, and lavender to brew soothing teas for the weary king. The rustle of leaves, the soft gurgle of an old well, these became the lullabies of her gentle reign. One afternoon, Jane strolled with Henry by the riverside, where weeping willows bent toward the water. They spoke without words. Henry confessed his past torment, his yearning for a son. Jane simply smiled, laying her hand on his shoulder, imparting a new strength, born not of crowns, but of quiet devotion. Soon, joyous news brightened the halls. Jane was with child. Candlelight once more twinkled in the palace. In a chamber adorned with white roses, Jane rested by an open window, listening to birdsong, breathing slowly as if nature itself whispered lullabies. Each night, Henry pressed his ear to her belly. "Is our child well?" he would murmur, hand trembling over her womb. One spring dawn, Jane gave birth to a son, Edward. His first cry was a melody that echoed through the castle, joined by trumpets and drums in celebration. Golden candlelight bathed the room, illuminating the tiny face that carried Henry's hopes. The king grasped his wife's hand, tears of joy shining in his eyes. This was the heir he'd dreamed of. Yet joy fluttered like a fragile butterfly. In days few and brief, Jane suffered postpartum hemorrhage, an aftermath rare and little understood at the time. Hoofbeats thundered outside, doctors rushed, and chaos briefly swept through the dreamlike calm. Still, within those walls, Jane remained serene. She clasped Henry's hand, breathing slowly, her faith unwavering. Each soft exhale seemed to carry strength to her husband's heart. In the flicker of candle flames, Henry felt his own heart break. He held Jane close, breath coming fast, the breath of grief, of unspoken promises. Jane managed a faint smile, her lips trembling, then closed her eyes, like a late autumn petal drifting to a quiet pond. Silence settled, broken only by the castle's hush and a single tear tracing down white linen. In that stillness, Henry whispered, "I will never forget you, my dearest wife." Little did he know those words would be his wish even in death. The court never forgot Jane. Her memory became the emblem of faithful love, and Henry chose to be laid to rest beside her. If you listen deeply, you might hear the rustle of leaves in her garden, the gentle murmur of water in the well final lullabies for Jane. Let your breath slow, your heartbeat steady, and let this gentle tale become your soft blanket, carrying you into a deep, peaceful sleep. Let me take you into a tranquil sunset. On the Devon coast of England, late autumn light drapes the willow branches in soft mauve and orange. Gentle waves lap at the shore, mingling with the rustle of reeds, composing a quiet symphony that ushers in the night. In that hushed moment, history seems to pause, marking the brief union of Henry VIII and a distant princess. Politics guided Henry to Anne of Cleves, a young woman from the German land of Cleves, where golden wheat fields stretched beneath misty hills and small castles peeked through dawn fog. Henry knew her only from a portrait by Hans Holbein. Anne appeared as a pale wisp, graceful and refined, hair like spun gold, a face as delicate as a crescent moon. Breathe in and out, as if savouring the scent of wild chamomile drifting on the breeze, or lavender tucked in a traveller's satchel. Their first meeting, at Christmas 1540, was a quiet revelation. Anne did not match her portrait. She was shorter, her cheeks rosy with health, a warm voice carrying the tone of woodland shadows, not the saintly stillness of paint. Henry murmured, "I've been deceived. She seems more a Flanders maid than a queen." No anger, just a soft sigh drifting away on the cold air. The palace seemed to hold its breath. Candle flames flickered along granite pillars, shadows dancing slowly. Beyond the windows, a horse neighed in the courtyard. There was no spark of love, no shared heartbeat, only two strangers bound by political design. Yet Anne chose not to sink into tragedy. She met reality with calm acceptance, smiling as she relinquished her crown. Henry granted her a generous settlement, Hever Castle, Richmond Manor, and sprawling green estates. On a frosty morning, Anne departed the court in a grey cloak, treading softly like a butterfly reborn into freedom. Listen to the snow melting, pattering under her footsteps. Feel your breath slow, your pulse steady, as if liberated from golden chains. Morning light filters through autumn leaves, falling like gentle crowns upon her golden hair. Anne spent years in peaceful dignity. She attended royal banquets as the king's sister, maintaining respect with Elizabeth, Mary, and Edward. In surviving letters, she advised future monarchs to treat women with honesty and respect, a little-known legacy. She became an indirect counselor, helping restore harmony after fierce disputes. Today, Anne of Cleves is often called Henry VIII's luckiest wife, not for a long marriage, but for preserving her freedom and grace. In our modern world, she stands as a model of letting go when love fails, choosing a path of serene self-respect. Release your cares, let the drip of melting dew, the whisper of leaves, and your even heartbeat weave a final lullaby. That fleeting marriage, like the last rays of a sunset, blazed gently then dissolved into peace. Picture: a tranquil June sunrise, dew still clinging to willow boughs and emerald grass. Far off, pink light filters through ancient oaks, awakening each droplet like scattered pearls. Sparrows twitter atop tiled roofs, and a gentle breeze whispers through palace pillars, greeting a young rose about to bloom. 17-year-old Catherine Howard was that rose, so young, innocent, yet brimming with life. Born into the powerful but itinerant Howard family, her early years were marked by unmonitored freedom, where evening gatherings at a governess's home gave rise to whispered rumours. Few know that Catherine's clear voice once filled springtime chapels with hymns so pure that even the birds seemed silent in reverence. Close your eyes, feel your heartbeat slow like a soft cock upon destiny's door. When Catherine first faced Henry, the king was weary, his body marked by age, illness, and suspicion. Yet in her presence, his eyes sparkled anew, and his laughter, deep and slow, echoed through stone halls. Catherine, clad in a simple white gown, moved like a gentle breeze. Her dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, each sunbeam crowning her with warmth. But life is not always bathed in sunlight. On moonlit nights, Catherine slipped into a secret garden, where silver light pooled on stone benches. There, behind velvet drapes in a hidden alcove, she met the young noble Thomas Culpeper. Leaves rustled above, their whispers blending with two stolen breaths, an intimate symphony unnoticed by anyone else. Yet those hushed sounds found ears eager to betray. Listen closely to the soft rhythm of Catherine's breath. Outside the window, the wind seems to join it, weaving a lullaby tinged with sorrow. One day, clandestine letters emerged, and the palace, a place once hushed with awe, erupted in hushed outrage. Henry, though painfully experienced, felt betrayal cut deeper. That night, he collapsed before her portrait, tears sliding down his lined cheeks. The candle's flame flickered, dropping ash like tears of time itself. Catherine was led to the Tower of London. Imagine a cold dawn as she crossed the stone bridge, raindrops from the night clinging to her robe. She was no longer a blooming rose, but a petal about to detach. In a black gown, hair bound tight, her gaze remained steady, only her lips trembling as she spoke her final plea. "Pray for me." Her last breath was a soft sigh, like the final gust of an evening breeze. Official records coldly state she was convicted of adultery and treason, a trial rushed on scant proof. Today, museums safeguard letters from Culpeper, evidence that their love, though forbidden, was sincere. Few realize that Catherine once dreamed of a simple life as a seamstress, away from the harsh glare of power. In our modern world, Catherine's story echoes in the lives of young hearts caught in social media's spotlight, shimmering images, concealing loneliness and a yearning for freedom. And then, as dawnlight slips through a tower window, it falls upon the stone slab where Catherine's fate was sealed. The light is gentle, not harsh, an attempt to soothe lingering resentments. Relax your body, hear the breeze sigh, your heart beat steady, and picture Catherine Howard, a petal drifting through morning mist, her body gone, but her spirit serene, like the silent night. If you listen deeply, you may catch her final prayer, whispering on the wind, an endless lullaby for fragile souls. Beneath the fading gold of sunset, the Tudor palace walls glowed with soft amber hues, mingled with the violet tones of dusk. Listen. The wind murmurs through ancient oaks, distant church bells toll calmly, echoing the steady pulse of time. In this gentle hush, Catherine Parr emerges the final wife, and the only one to witness the dynasty's end. Catherine did not come to Henry VIII with youthful beauty, but with a soul tempered by loss, twice widowed, familiar with sorrow. Her hair touched by silver, her eyes bright with intelligence and compassion. Few know she studied Latin, Greek, and theology. So as queen, she was more than a silent presence. She became a learned advisor to the king and his court. Breathe in and out. Feel the cool breeze drift through wide-open windows, like Catherine's peaceful exhale as she sat in her study, reading and penning her heartfelt journals. Her small religious treatises on faith, love, and mercy rested secretly on oak shelves in the royal library. You might be surprised that Catherine was the first English queen to publish under her own name, a daring act few would dare attempt. When Henry fell gravely ill, Catherine did not abandon him. In the violet glow of candlelight, she knelt by his bedside, placing her warm hand on his brow. His breaths came ragged, like distant waves on the shore. She whispered prayers and herbal remedies then known. Rosewater, stewed sage, each flicker of the tea hearth a soothing lullaby. In the corridor, 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward, tiptoed behind her. Catherine gently guided their hands, speaking in a calm, measured tone. She mended the fractured bonds of Henry's family, if only briefly. Laughter born from candlelit tea times drifted through the halls, easing the court's old tensions. Pause. Hear your heartbeat match the gentle drum of that soft laughter. This serene scene mirrors modern caregivers, nurses, doctors, loved ones who stand quietly by sickbeds, bringing peace rather than spectacle. At court feasts, Catherine wore pale blue silk, a simple veil draped over her shoulders, candlelight twinkling on a modest necklace. She never stole the spotlight, but spoke with thoughtful grace. In Parliament, she listened, took notes, and offered Henry counsel built on patience, reason, and empathy, even to those across the political divide. A lesser-known fact: when Henry sought remarriage after his recovery, Catherine deftly delayed him by championing religious reforms. She drafted a decree allowing women greater roles in church life and sponsored the translation of scripture into English. These measures slowed the rush to remarriage and nudged England closer toward Protestantism. Finally, when Henry passed away in a chamber awash with golden candlelight, Catherine alone stood vigil. Her breath was calm and even, like the softest lullaby. She saw the last Tudor king to his resting place, then gently released the reins of power. After the funeral, Catherine found love again, this time with a kind nobleman who had admired her quietly. They retired to a riverside manor, where she could sip herbal tea by the window and watch the sunset spill gold across the water, the soft dip of oars, the rustle of willows, and in her heart, a serenity born after the storm. In our world today, Catherine Parr stands as a symbol of resilience and female wisdom, one who loved with her mind, cared with her heart, and lived fully despite hardship. Let your breath slow, your heartbeat steady, as you drift into sleep with Catherine's enduring lullaby, the lullaby of the survivor. As dusk's final glow settles on the old palace tiles, Sussex maples carpet the path in crimson leaves. A gentle breeze stirs the stones, whispering tales of past sorrows. In this hushed moment, Mary Tudor ascends the throne, a queen with a thorny crown. Born the tainted child in the eyes of court, Mary was torn from her mother, Catherine of Aragon, cast into the shadows. Picture a little girl's footsteps echoing through damp wooden corridors, her heart pounding with an ache for belonging. Outside her window, leaves rustle as though softly mourning her lost childhood. When Edward VI breathed his last in the chill of winter 1553, Mary was crowned amid trembling candles and priests' incense. She vowed to restore England to Roman Catholicism, its rites and abbeys silent for decades. Inhale, exhale, breathe in the cool, incense-laced air, breathe out the faint wisp of candle smoke. Mary reinstated Latin masses in Westminster, calling monks from Europe to preach. Her voice, steeped in ancient prayers, resonated like the hush of old stone naves. Yet faith's return spread like wildfire. Hundreds who refused conversion were tried and burned at the stake. In the deep night, torchlight flared grimly as smoke curled overhead, a reminder of religion's fierce power. Modern parallels echo in debates over religious freedom when conviction fuels conflict, leaving scars on the soul. Behind the political fervour, Mary nursed a private hope: motherhood. She announced pregnancies that most sources now doubt or record as miscarriages. Imagine her in a lavender-draped chamber, hand on her belly, listening for a fragile heartbeat. If you placed your palm against hers, then you'd feel the mingled warmth and sorrow of a woman yearning for life. A lesser-known episode: a proposed marriage to Philip II of Spain, arranged to cement Catholic alliances. They met in quiet splendor, Mary in emerald gowns, Philip gifting her white lilies of purity. Yet closeness never bloomed. Their bond remained formal across continents, a political pact more than a union of hearts. When Mary passed in November 1558, barely 41, candles flickered low in silent chapels. The funeral tolls rang long, mourners wiping tears in muted grief. She entrusted her crown to half-sister Elizabeth, who kindled a single vigil candle as winds swept through empty halls, a quiet promise of a new era. Now close your eyes. See Mary in her royal garden, auburn hair like autumn light, smiling in calm acceptance. Though her crown was heavy with thorns, her spirit carried a gentle grace. Let your heartbeat ride the whispering breeze. Let your breath ease like a lullaby for a queen who led with kindness and bore her struggles in quiet dignity. A deep midnight blue stretches across London's rolling fields, where morning mist clings like pearls on the grass. Listen. The breeze stirs through tall poplars, as gentle as the earth's own breath. A carriage creaks along cobblestones, carrying a 3-year-old princess into exile, leaving behind the echoes of power and shattered hopes. Elizabeth was born in September at Greenwich Palace, enrobed in candlelight and rose petals, a sliver of dawn against a grey sky. Yet her father, Henry VIII, desiring a male heir, saw only disappointment. At age 3, Elizabeth lost her mother, Anne Boleyn, to the king's axe. Breathe in and out. Feel that silent fracture. Flickering candles, hurried footsteps, the wind sighing through wooden doors, lulling a fragile dream to sleep. Stripped of her princess title, Elizabeth became a bastard child in court eyes. Her childhood was a series of unanchored moves, from palace to manor, each hearth cold with uncertainty. Each dusk, as amber light seeped through window slits, Elizabeth would sit against the sill, clutching her skirts, gazing at the horizon of unfulfilled possibilities. Yet in the shadows bloomed quiet lights. Elizabeth studied Latin with John Check, Greek with Roger Ascham, and French under a native tutor. The soft clack of quills on parchment mingled with her small, steady breaths, preparing her for a long journey ahead. Notice. Your heart beats slow, your breath even, mirroring her measured pace in the royal library. She stood in front of ebony bookshelves, tracing worn leather spines, memorizing Ovid's verse and Wycliffe's psalms, embracing philosophy's depth and theology's glow. In those study chambers, candlelight warmed her face, smoke curls dancing like fleeting dreams in her bright eyes. A lesser-known fact. Elizabeth once suffered mild poisoning, and while recovering, she honed the art of reading faces, seeing emotion in an eyebrow's twitch or a muffled sigh. This acute awareness became her greatest asset, later guiding her with unparalleled tact in matters of state. At night, when the palace slumbered, Elizabeth lay in her wooden cradle, listening to wind rush through chimneys and cats padding across deserted halls. She did not fear darkness, but welcomed it as a loyal friend, shielding her from outer chaos. Each time she closed her eyes, dreams of recognition and love slowly unfolded. In today's world, Elizabeth's journey resembles modern life under social media's glare, with flashing screens instead of ancient tomes. She mastered digital mindfulness, before her time choosing silence, observing, and selecting her words as carefully as we hope to sift through information and remain balanced. One summer afternoon, at age 6, Elizabeth visited her godmother Queen Mary Tudor. Soft late summer rays filtered through Whitehall's stone arches, illuminating Mary's red hair and the girl's pale curls. Mary whispered, "Be strong, and never forget the fire in your heart." Those words lingered like warmth before a storm. At 10, following Edward VI's passing, the young princess managed her modest household, overseeing rose gardens and the healing herb plot where she found solace. The drip of well water, leaves rustling in the breeze, composed her personal symphony, a melody bridging her past and future. These years shaped her from a discarded child to a revered sovereign. Never forgetting her lonely beginnings, Elizabeth enacted laws protecting women from unjust removal of status, an early precursor to modern women's rights, yet often overlooked. Now close your eyes. Picture candlelight flickering over ebony desks, the scent of dried herbs in the air, wind whispering through a window's lattice. Feel your pulse align with Elizabeth's measured breaths as she tiptoed through silent study halls. Each exhale becomes a lullaby, guiding you into a deep, peaceful sleep like a princess born in darkness, destined to shine. A rainy night draped over London, raindrops plopping on cobblestones in slowed time's rhythm. Listen. The rain and wind blend with marching guard boots echoing beneath the shadowed walls of the Tower of London. There, Elizabeth Tudor, once cradled in candlelight and longing, stands now as a perilous symbol of Protestant faith. Mary Tudor ascended the throne with firm resolve, clutching her volume of Roman Catholic rites. The scent of incense mingled with rain's damp tang drifting through the palace. Inside the barred cell, Elizabeth heard prayers bells blend with metallic clinks. Breathe in and out. Feel the captive's even, strong breath that refuses to bow before darkness. Records note. In March 1554, Mary ordered her sister's arrest for suspected involvement in Wyatt's rebellion. Elizabeth was jailed in the Tower, where her mother once awaited a grim fate. The red bricks absorbed old sorrows, and night seeped through the narrow window, leaving just a sliver of light hope's fragile thread. In her gloomy cell, Elizabeth had only a thin blanket, a rickety wooden table, and a few small books permitted to her. Rain drummed above, wind whispered through cracks, and once in a while, a mournful crow cawed atop the tower. But few know. Elizabeth smuggled in a thimble and needle, then stitched secret margins on her pages verses of "O Sweet Lute," and Latin prayers became her hidden arsenal, fortifying her spirit. Feel your heartbeat slow. Like Elizabeth's pulse in that midnight cell, each breath, like a quiet wave, reminds us that even in the harshest places, one can preserve the self. One dawn, after 2 months, Elizabeth received her pardon. Morning mist lay soft on the tower walls, violet light filtering through iron gates. She stepped free, not bitter, shivering in a wet grey gown but steady in her stride. Chronicles say she smiled as a sparrow slipped between bars, soaring into freedom's sky. When Mary died in November 1558, Elizabeth was 25. Trumpets heralded her rise amid late autumn chill, signalling destiny's shift. Imagine candlelit streets, flickering flames dancing in the breeze, portraits of a new queen at Whitehall's gate. Elizabeth ascended a throne she once dreamed of only in dark hours. Yet hours later, her first proclamation was freedom of worship, a gentle decree we'd now call religious choice. Ironically, 2 years earlier, Mary's edict had snuffed out hundreds of human lights. Now, Elizabeth lit a sea of lamps for unity, a modern parallel. A society healing cultural rifts by reopening churches, museums, and inviting dialogue instead of snuffing out voices. Elizabeth rewrote faith's boundaries while preserving royal power like an architect rebuilding a fragile edifice amid a storm. A lesser-known fact: at her coronation, Elizabeth chose not the grand imperial crown marred by past bloodshed, but a smaller gold circlet carved with Tudor roses. A humble sign. Power's splendor tempered by gentle remembrance. As you hear the steady rain, envision that scene. Glistening streets under lamplight, edges of rain, smudged columns, and Elizabeth's calm voice at her first council. Let us honor each other's beliefs. Those words, soft yet firm, subtly shifted the kingdom's winds. Now close your eyes. Picture Elizabeth amidst moonlit pillars, dewy grass shimmering in night's glow, breathing slow and sure. Though she'd lost and languished, she emerged into light anew. Let your heartbeat mirror hers, your breath flow as hers did, carrying you on waves of serene dreams into a deep, peaceful slumber. Imagine dawn breaking in the royal gardens at Whitehall, blue mist clinging to velvet roses. Soft sunlight filters through wrought iron gates, casting diamond sparkles on dew-kissed leaves. Ringing sparrows trill overhead as Westminster's bells toll in the distance. In that hush, Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, steps onto the balcony, inhales the crisp air, and allows the chill of dawn to brush her skin. Once her throne was secure, offers of marriage poured in from across Europe. The King of France, the Archduke of Austria, even the Prince of Denmark, Each letter arrived with lavish gifts, silks, pearls, and praises of her personal perfume, said to be irresistibly enchanting. Listen. The morning rain patters on leaves, like a flood of smartphone notifications lacking only the little heart emoji. But Elizabeth was never in a hurry. She chose instead to marry her realm, putting the nation's welfare above personal bonds. At banquets, ambassadors in fine gloves presented her rings of proposal. Elizabeth would smile, her copper hair glinting like fire, then turn gracefully into the hall, leaving that ardour behind. Her power came not through shackles, but through soft strength that held the throne steady. These gatherings glowed in warm candlelight, stone walls draped in Tudor banners, and soothing lute music blending with guests' gentle breaths. If you pressed a hand to your chest, you'd feel your heart slow to the rhythm of her court under her guiding hand. A little-known fact: Elizabeth invited John Dee, court astrologer extraordinaire, to chart her personal constellation. She believed her Star of the Virgin would light England's path into a new dawn. A touch of irony. While today's influencers spend fortunes on personal branding, Elizabeth's brand was celestial 16th century 4.0 at its finest. Her single status was more than a personal stance. It was diplomatic genius. Elizabeth made courts wait, dangling alliances like rare commodities, then gracefully stepping back when needed. She was a master negotiator, always leaving partners wanting more before sealing a deal that served England. This tactic maintained Europe's balance without firing a single cannon. Pause. Close your eyes and envision moonlight spilling onto the balcony, wheat fields swaying in the breeze, and Elizabeth steady breathing. She once declared, "I shall have but one husband, my kingdom." Her words, as light as night air, carried the weight of a solemn vow. In our modern world, Elizabeth resembles a corporate CEO, declining merger offers while leveraging talks to boost prestige. She needed no power couple title or trophy bride status. She reigned as the Virgin Queen, her authority undiminished by any harem. Another little-known tidbit: Elizabeth wrote to an Italian princess, wryly discussing the terms of political unions. "Should I wed? I hope my spouse does not expect nightly treatises on ethics." The princess reportedly smiled and opted to discuss ancient manuscripts instead of wedding plans. At the close of a late banquet, candle wicks low, Elizabeth stands alone on the balcony. A brazier crackles, its smoke drifting in a soporific swirl, as if the very air seeks to lull her. She gazes at the night sky, where her virgin star still glimmers through mist, a silent promise to guard her people. Let your heart beat slow, your breath soften, as this story carries you into sweet slumber. Like Elizabeth, you need no grand wedding to feel complete, just self-love and the steadfast values within. Dawn doesn't always shine in gold. Yet under Elizabeth's reign, England blossomed like sunflowers in sunlight. Listen to the morning bells, tolling from street, pulls echoing through damp air as a melody heralding a new era. In the misty dawn, the Thames drifts quietly, reflecting the rosy glow of cathedral spires. Along its banks, whispers rise from new playhouses, where Shakespeare and his fellows step onto wooden stages, candles flickering in the galleries. Their lines mix tragedy and comedy rise softly tonight, like a lullaby where to be or not to be drifts as gently as a slow breath. Beyond the city, courtly music drifts to distant palaces, lute and flute melodies wafting through candlelit halls. Rich fabrics and fresh poems adorn the scene. Few know, Shakespeare's name didn't appear on scripts. He signed, "By my troth," a humble mark not unlike the soft calm we share now. On the sea, a different vista unfolds. Waves sigh against Francis Drake's ship as it skims unknown oceans. Salt-laced winds carry hope of distant shores. Walter Raleigh, draped in finery, perhaps grinned like a child with his first Christmas gift on hearing of New World treasures, though his pockets remained curiously empty of expected spoils. A little-known fact: when Drake returned circumnavigating the globe, he brought aboard a dried gourd of rum, an exotic brew that swiftly became England's first craft cocktail. Close your eyes. Imagine the clink of glasses, the tang of rum drifting like incense, colouring nightly revelries with that golden taste. Then came word of the mighty Spanish Armada, a wind-whipped rumour gathering speed. By day the sky paled under the shadow of 100 sails. By night, English fireships crackled, their flames dancing on black waters. Drums rolled, men cheered, but let's mute that sound, feel only each steady breath. Each held gaze, readying for legend's moment. Elizabeth, in silver armour etched with stars, rode across verdant fields. Campfires flickered below a pale moon, metal glinting in the night. Her famed words rang clear. I may have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king. Light-hearted quip. Today we might dub her She-Io, decisive, robust, and decidedly uninterested in childbirth. When the English fleet triumphed, fireworks hadn't yet brightened skies, but black smoke drifted like banners across the sea. Horns sounded again, let them fade into silence, marking victory's zenith now gently past. Londoners emerged into the dawn, looking skyward with renewed faith. This golden age wasn't just art or naval victories. It resonates with modern Silicon Valley's bold ventures, from handwritten plays to circumnavigation, new frontiers in culture, science, and economy. Imagine tech pioneers setting foot on virtual islands of the internet, as Drake and Raleigh did on oceans. As night falls and Globe Theatre's candles dim, heed the wind rustling down cobblestone streets, carriage wheels whispering, your breath sinking with London's ancient rhythms. From her balcony, Elizabeth would have smiled upon her city, knowing this golden age lives not only in history books, but also in every heart, breath, and sound that shapes our lives. Now, let sleep carry you into dreams where candlelight warms you, embers glow softly, and the tide's lapping fades into quiet. Drift with Elizabeth into the golden age, an era of open dreams and whispers of the past guiding tomorrow. A serene night falls over Whitehall. A sliver of moon hangs faintly above the rooftops, casting a pale silver glow on the still waters of the Thames. A gentle breeze rustles through willow branches, carrying the scent of dew and the soft whisper of leaves, as if singing an ancient lullaby. Candles in stately chambers have dwindled to glowing embers, quietly marking the end of another day. In this hushed moment, Elizabeth I, the final Tudor queen, sits quietly upon her balcony. Her figure is frail, her skin as delicate as parchment, yet she exudes the composure of one who has weathered time. Her powdered wig glows softly in the moonlight, her face bright as the moon itself. In this gentle light, she resembles a timeless painting, forever capturing the tender fading of an era. The only sound is the steady murmur of a small canal below, each ripple brushing the shore before slipping into the night. Breathe in and breathe out. Relax your entire body. Feel the cool night air softly caress your skin, as if you, like Elizabeth, are breathing in harmony with the night. In her final years, Elizabeth lived in quiet solitude. Her companions now were old books with yellowed pages, letters filled with memory, and the gentle strains of a small chamber violin. Under tall vaulted ceilings, the wooden beams seemed to sigh with the changing seasons, and distant bells tolled at midnight. She spoke little, choosing instead to listen to the flow of time itself. Few know that Elizabeth once named a star in the night sky Gloriana, an everlasting light she hoped would guide her nation. Tonight, if you look up, you might glimpse that star shimmering faintly behind thin clouds, reminding us that every end is also the beginning of a legend. In her mind's eye, she recalled London's vibrant days, streets ablaze with lantern light, laughter entwined with music, velvet drapes swaying in the breeze. Now there was only silence, but this silence was warm, holding the peace she had discovered after a lifetime of storms, political upheaval, hatred, warfare, and matters of the heart. Elizabeth stood firm in the tempest, and now she allowed her soul to find stillness. Before her final rest, Elizabeth gave orders to preserve the palace gardens as a sanctuary for weary birds returning home. At dawn, birdsong would greet the day anew, sunlight would shimmer on green leaves, and the Thames would hum its hopeful song once more. This was her softest, final message to future generations. Imagine Elizabeth standing at the edge of dawn's first light, fingertips brushing dew-kissed rose petals. She whispered, "Grow strong, even through storm and rain." That whisper lingers like a lullaby, reverberating through the vast night, comforting every weary soul. And then came the stillest moment of all. The moon receded behind distant trees, leaving a sliver of light. The breeze stilled, save for a faint rustle across the water. Elizabeth let out a gentle sigh, her final breath in a grand symphony of 44 years. She closed her eyes, a serene smile upon her lips, even as her body grew still. All candles were extinguished, yet her light endures in the hearts of many and in the pages of history. In the hush of Whitehall's night, dawn's faint glow creeps upon the palace windows. Ivy clings to ancient stone, carrying the breath of centuries. Listen. Leaves drift softly across the courtyard stones, each a memory slipping slowly into the dark. Elizabeth remains on her balcony, cloak wrapped around frail shoulders. She gazes eastward, where the sky flushes pink. A journey of loss and triumph passes through her mind, from a discarded child wandering palace corridors to a sovereign who forged a golden age. Her life was woven of candlelight, courtly music, and tears, but never a surrender of hope. In the quiet afternoons, Elizabeth strolled among rose gardens, where petals fell like snow onto verdant lawns. Each blossom's delicate beauty whispered, "All things fade, yet their fragrance endures just like the Tudor legacy, fading from history yet unforgettable in essence." Evening birds sang their lullaby as she once listened by window panes, each wingbeat a soft drum. She wandered under ivy-laced arches, inhaling the lingering scent of night-blooming herbs, and exhaled the weight of unsaid sorrows. In the deserted courtyard, a lone lantern flickered, illuminating her serene face. Each wrinkle bore witness to storms weathered, each ghostly sparkle of powder hidden deeper resilience. Her smile, soft as dusk's last glow, spoke of peace discovered at life's end. Elizabeth once confided, "Born in darkness, I chose to shine like a beacon on a stormy sea." These words, her life's refrain, taught England that intellect and courage can rewrite destiny. Few are aware. In her final years, she composed verses to skylarks named after musical notes: lute, lyre, song. Each dawn they sang. She found solace in a vision of a calmer court where art blossomed freely. Recalling Drake's global voyages, she studied a hand-drawn map in her private sanctum. Tracing ocean currents with trembling finger, she imagined waves breaking against wooden hulls. Her breath, rhythmic like a ship's wake, reminded her that every voyage, no matter how distant, belonged to a grander journey of history and the human spirit. Now the night's heartbeat slows. Cathedral bells toll at midnight, each peal touching a lingering hush. Moonlight slants across stone walls, casting fractured memories that sparkle like ancient fragments. As you prepare to close your eyes, let these images drift in. The slender crescent moon above rooftops, a dew-laden rose garden, skylarks in joyous song. Hear your heart slow, as soft as the midnight bell echoing across a tranquil realm. You need not soar higher now, simply let sleep carry you. Each breath a tender breeze upon your soul. Elizabeth laid down her crown, now lay down your worries. Each inhale is a gentle reminder. Serenity births renewal. Stillness holds deep strength. Good night. Sleep peacefully under the watch of your own guiding star, and awaken to dawn's gentle promise. Tonight, rest assured, the tale concludes, yet its light endures, guiding onward forever.